Hello students, in today's video session, we will discuss chapter number 1, matter in our surroundings. So what is matter? Anything which occupies space and has a mass is called matter. For example, air and water, hydrogen and oxygen, sugar and sand, etc. have volume and mass. If we look around us, we can see a large number of things of different shapes, sizes, and textures. Many of these things are used by us in our everyday life, like we eat food, we drink water, we breathe air, and we wear clothes. We use table and chair for studying and bed for sleeping. So the things like food, water, air, clothes, table, chair, human beings, animals, plants, and trees, etc. are all examples of matter. Matter can be classified in a number of ways. Ancient Indian philosophers said that all the matter, living or non-living, was made up of five basic elements: Panch Tattva, air, earth, fire, sky, and water, which is also known as Vayu, Prithvi, Agni, Akash, and Jal. Modern day scientists classify matter in two ways: on the basis of their physical properties and on the basis of its chemical properties. On the basis of physical properties, matter is classified as solids, liquids, and gases. And on the basis of chemical properties, matter is classified as elements, compounds, and mixtures. In this chapter, we will study the classification of matter on the basis of its physical properties, the classification of matter on the basis of its chemical properties will be described in the next chapter. So let's begin the chapter. Here physical properties are given. So what are the physical properties of matter? Number 1, matter is made up of particles. 2, the particles of matter are very tiny. 3, the particles of matter have space between them. 4, the particles of matter are continuously moving. The particles of matter attract each other. One by one, we will discuss about the properties. Everything around us is made up of tiny pieces or particles. For example, a small raindrop contains about 10 raised to 21 particles of water in it. The particles which make up matter are so small that we cannot see them even with a high-power microscope. Most of the evidence for the existence of particles in matter at their motion comes from the experiments on diffusion, means mixing of different substances on their own, and Brownian motion. So your one activity is given. Take some water in a beaker and note its level. Dissolve some salt or sugar. Both are crystalline substances. With the help of glass rod. The salt dissolves in the water, but the level of water does not change. This is because the particles of water get into the space between the particles of water. This shows that matter is made up of particles. Second property, The particles of matter are very tiny. Again, we will discuss this property with one activity. Here, what we have to do is, we will dissolve 2-3 crystals or some amount of potassium permanganate in 100 ml of water in a beaker. Potassium permanganate is a purple colored solid substance and water is a colorless liquid. So take 10 ml of this solution and dissolve in 100 ml of water. Then take 10 ml of this solution and dissolve in 100 ml of water. Repeat this process 5 to 6 times. This shows that a few crystals of potassium permanganate can change a large volume of water because there are millions of tiny particles in each crystal. In this experiment, the particles of potassium permanganate and those of water mix on their own without any external stirring. Since the particles of potassium permanganate and particles of water spread into each other and mix up on their own, it is concluded that they are moving or they are in motion. This movement of different particles among each other on their own is known as diffusion process. Third, the particles of matter have space between them. Now here, what we have to do is, first take a beaker and add some water into it, then note its level. Dissolve some salt or sugar in it with the help of glass rod. The salt dissolves in the water, but the level of water does not change. This is because the particles of salt get into the space between the particles of water. This also gives another conclusion that the particles or molecule in water are not tightly packed. They are somewhat loose, having space between them. Particles of matter are continuously moving. The best evidence that particles of matter are continuously moving comes from the studies of diffusion and Brownian motion. One simple example we can use here. When we light or burn agarbatti in one corner of a room, its fragrance spreads in the whole room quickly. The burning of agarbatti produces gases having a pleasant smell. The particles of gases produced by the burning of agarbatti move rapidly in all directions, mix with the moving particles of air in the room and reach every part of the room quickly. This is because the fragrance of burning stick spreads into the entire room very quickly, tells us that the particles of matter are continuously moving. Here we will use copper sulfate crystals to understand this property of matter. Take some water in a beaker and put few crystals of copper sulfate slowly along the sides of the beaker. Leave it undisturbed for few hours. The crystals spread evenly throughout the water due to the movement of the particles of water and crystals. This can be explained on the basis of motion of copper sulfate particles and water particles. Here diffusion process takes place. The spreading of blue color of copper sulfate crystals in a water is due to the movement of both water and copper sulfate particles. Last property is the particles of matter attract each other. Take an iron nail, a piece of chalk and a rubber band. Try breaking them by hammering, cutting or stretching. It is more easier to break the chalk, less easier to break the rubber band and difficult to break the iron nail. Because your iron nail particles are tightly packed and they attract each other with greater force compared to rubber band and chalk. Thank you. In the next lecture, we will discuss state of matter and properties of solids, liquids and gases.